What I did today could define our very future, and I didn't take that reality lightly. There was no telling how long we'd wait for them, what we'd discover, or whether they'd already sent something to our location millions of years ago. Anything was possible, but I was ready. My flipper latched around the vehicle's door handle, and I hopped out onto the rock. Warm air circulated around me, saving me from the chill of nerves running down. I cast my gaze up at the sky as the convoy skidded to a halt. General Naltor joined me, though at my urging, he prevented the armed personnel from disembarking. I knew snipers were monitoring the location, but at least this way, Bissums with assault weapons wouldn't be the first thing visible to the aliens. I was prepared to sit back and wait for as many hours as necessary for a slight, but it only took a few minutes for the fateful moment to arrive. My beak parted in awe when a gray silhouette pierced the clouds, descending with light expulsions from its thrusters. Naltor looked like he could barely resist calling in the anti-aircraft weapons, since the vessel hadn't registered on his radar. The aliens must have been monitoring this location for our arrival via satellite imaging, or something that gave them a view from space. Our analysts were correct about their message being coordinates in our geomapping system, a thought that only just dawned on me, for why the Lassian military's interpretation should have been absurd. There was no time for that thought, and the implications it carried. Our greeting party was going to discover firsthand just how much these creatures knew about Bissums, and how long they'd been observing us, in mere seconds. The vessel's landing gear had touched down on the flat, rocky surface, sitting for a few moments while its propulsion system cooled off. A ramp opened from its belly, and I approached it with intrigued, inspired caution. Naltor couldn't resist calling in the soldiers after seeing movement. I was horrified, as twitchy, flippered servicemen trained guns on the platform from close range, but there was nothing I could do to get the general to back off. Hopefully, the aliens would forgive that The lower limbs of three beings, who seemed to be from drastically different species, appeared at the top of the ramp. Their movements were slow, but with deliberate progress, and their features were cloaked beneath spacesuits. I took the time to soak in everything that I could gather about their forms. These were organic life forms similar to us, with an anatomy that was recognizable in many ways. Each of the creatures had 2 legs for bipedalism, 2 manipulator limbs, and a head atop their torso. Interestingly, none of them resembled Bissums. In the sense of looking avian, they seemed more like mammals than beings with wings. I could see the tallest alien leading the way, with long, flexible appendages and nimble digits beneath its glove. A creature with stout legs and extra space to accommodate a seemingly puffy spine followed the line. The final member of the 3 was the only one that had a spot for a tail built into its suit, and it seemed both the shortest and the slowest of the posse. It was impossible to discern the features of any of their craniums, hidden beneath opaque, spherical mass. Questions raced in my mind, since it was evident these were different species. Did multiple sapient races evolve on the same planet, resulting in even starker differences than between Bissum subspecies? Was there something else at play here entirely? Who were they, and what did they want? How did they plan to approach first contact once they reached the bottom of the ramp, and would General Naltor's army scare them off? Despite the tremendous uncertainty, I found myself wandering closer to the visitors, until I stood right where the ramp met rocky ground. The aliens halted a flipper's length away from me, seeming to size me up. I could feel the tension from the Lassian military, as their weapon barrels kept watch over the first interaction. My heart was hammering in my chest, desperate to find out what would happen. However, the next occurrence was about as shocking of an outcome as I could fathom. The tall creature turned its head slightly, as a microphone projected a gravelly voice from inside its helmet. "Greetings from the people of the Sapient Coalition. We come in." I nearly tipped over in disbelief, while gasps sounded among the military observers. The alien had greeted us in perfect Vrit, our language. That should not have been possible. The nature of predators, 2-2. Memory transcription subject. Date, standardized human time, March 13th, 2160. The alien stood in silence after pronouncing those series of words in our dialect, waiting as we processed it. Its 2 partners stood behind it, with the shortest one especially seeming deferential. I gawked at the visitors, setting aside all thoughts of approaching them with numbers and a slow exchange of vocabulary. Some of the clicks sounded strange from its vocal cords, reverberating with strength and power, but the usage was. We needed to have a way to respond to them now, and I'd never even thought what to say. It had been a possibility that I ruled out as fantastical, imagining how different they would be. What was I supposed to think of them knowing our language? They must either be able to learn unfathomably quickly through some kind of cognitive transference, or they'd been monitoring us for quite a while. The latter seemed the most plausible, but then again, this entire premise of this scenario shouldn't have been plausible. If they had been present, observing us like our scientists would track a school of fish, that, coupled with their words, meant they didn't bear us any ill will. It was possible they'd been here for a much longer duration, watching our entire societal history play out. These were advanced life forms after all, with capabilities that allowed them to travel light years through space. Perhaps they were progenitors of life in this star system. For all we knew, these were our very creators. I thought about their entity's name, the Sapient Coalition. It sounded like an alliance of numerous species, and it didn't follow that they'd evolved on the same way. Wait, were they inviting us to join a galactic community? We have to be on our best behavior. Naltor needs to call off his guns and play nice. We're directly communicating with multiple worlds. Welcome to Ivrana, I managed, a stupefied croak that barely escaped my beak. We're honored to have you here. May I ask how you know our language? Several barks escaped the tall, slender figure's chest. We got your messages and observed your world for several years to assess the best way to approach contact. Don't worry, we're familiar with your culture, so you won't cause us any offense. Might I say, Journey Beneath the Ice is a great movie. General Naltor blinked in confusion. You watched Journey Beneath the Ice? A guilty pleasure. I can sense the nasty looks from my colleagues, but we humans, we like to keep it light. Forgive me. To answer your question, we do have language model-driven translator technology, which decoded your However, to avoid any misunderstandings, mistranslations, and clunky machines, our team learned to speak Vrit fluently. It took 10 years. It's really hard to teach those damn machines idioms and wordplay, as I'm sure you, a species that's had the internet for decades, can imagine.